Fundamental point number 4. These are those things which break your fast, and there are 8 of these, so making a note. Number 1, eating and drinking on purpose. Number 2, sexual intercourse on purpose. Number 3, vomiting on purpose. Number 4, making yourself ejaculate. Number 5, having an intention to break the fast. Number 6, الحيض أو نفاس. Number 7, الردة, which is apostasy. And number 8, الحجامة, which is cupping. Okay, let's go through this. Number 1, the eating and drinking must be on purpose. That's when it breaks the fast. If it was by forgetfulness, then it has no effect on your fast and you just carry on fasting as normal. This is due to the hadith, إذا نسي أحدكم وهو صائم فأكل أو شرب فليتم صومه فإنما أطعمه الله وسقاه. If one of you forgetfully eats or drinks whilst he is fasting, then let him complete his fast, because it is only Allah who gave him to eat and drink. Point number 2 is sexual intercourse on purpose. If you did it by accident or you were absent-minded, then there is nothing upon you and you continue your fast as normal. If you were on a travel, and we know that a traveler can break the fast, and you purposefully had sexual intercourse, then there would be no sin on you, because on your travels you are allowed to break your fast. Why? Because the rukhsah is given to you as a traveler. If you were not a traveler and you purposefully had sexual intercourse, then you have to pay the kaffara, meaning the expiation. And the expiation is either to free a slave. If you cannot do that, then you have to fast 60 consecutive days. If you cannot do that, then you have to feed 60 poor people. That's 60 different poor people. The same expiation applies to a woman if she was complicit in this act of intercourse. If she was forced, then there is nothing upon her, and she can continue her fasting. As well as the expiation, one must make up for that missed day of Ramadan. Point number 3 is vomiting purposefully. If the vomit comes without you wanting it to happen, meaning it overcomes you, then you continue fasting and there is nothing upon you. It is only when you yourself vomit intentionally. This is due to the hadith where Rasulullah ﷺ said, من ذرعه القي فلا قضاء عليه ومن استقاء فعليه القضاء. He's saying, if the vomit overcomes you, you don't have to make up the day, and if you yourself intentionally vomit, then you have to make up the day. Breaking your fast does not mean that the rest of the day you could spend eating and drinking. No, but rather the rest of the day you must spend not eating and drinking, respecting the sacredness of the daytime of Ramadan. But it does still mean that you would have to make up a day because you have broken the fast. Point number 4 is making yourself ejaculate on purpose. This could be done either by touching your private parts or even by looking at a woman a second glance, because the first glance you're allowed, you're not taken into account for it, but the second time you look, you are taken into account, because the second time you're doing it on purpose. So if this glance makes you ejaculate, then you're held accountable and your fasting is broken. The fundamental point here is that making yourself ejaculate on purpose breaks the fast. The evidence for this is the hadith, يَدَعُ طَعَامَهُ وَشَهْوَتَهُ لِأَجْلِي. He leaves off his food and his desires for my sake. So the last part here, his desires, is the key. It tells us that the one who makes himself ejaculate has not left off his desires for the sake of Allah, therefore his fasting is invalid. Point number 5, supposing you began the day fasting and you know that fasting can cause a bad smell in your mouth because you haven't eaten or drank anything for a while, and you know that in your workplace you have to speak to very many different people, and you realize that it could be quite embarrassing for you having a bad smell from your mouth and you have to interact with all these people. So what you say to yourself is, today I won't fast, I'm going to break my fast because it could cause me embarrassment. Merely by making this intention, you have broken the fast. Why? Because إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّةِ, your actions are but by your intention. So if you made your intention to break the fast, you have broken the fast. It was as if you ate or drank something. Point number 6 is hayd or nifas, your menstruation blood or the postnatal bleeding. We mentioned before that from the conditions for your fasting to be sahih, to be correct, is that there must be no menstruation blood or no postnatal bleeding. Thus, if the woman begins to menstruate during the daytime of Ramadan, then she can spend the rest of the day eating and drinking, though it must be in private, and she has to make up that day after the Ramadan, as well as all the other days that she missed due to menstruation. Point number 7 is that if you become a kafir whilst fasting, then your fasting is broken. The reason is obvious, because any act of worship cannot be sahih or acceptable from any kafir. وَلَقَدْ أُوحِيَ إِلَيْكَ وَإِلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ لَإِنْ أَشْرَكْتَ لَيَحْبَطَنَّ عَمَلُكَ وَلَتَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. It has been revealed to you and to those before you that if you commit shirk, your deeds would become null and void. Point number 8 is al-hijama, which is cupping. This is the minority opinion. However, it is the opinion which has the evidence on its side, because Rasulullah ﷺ said, أفطر الحاجم والمحجوم, that the one who's doing the cupping and the one who's being cupped have both broken their fast. Cupping is when you extract blood from the body, and it can be done in various parts of the body. It is from the prophetic medicinal treatments. We move to fundamental rule number 5, and these are the days in which it is mustahab, recommended to fast. And there are 8 of these, so make a note. Number 1, fasting on alternate days. Number 2, fasting on Yawm Arafah if you are not a pilgrim. Number 3, fasting the day of Ashura, which is 10th of Muharram. Number 4, fasting Mondays and Thursdays. Number 5, fasting 6 days of Shawol. Number 6, fasting the first 9 days of Dhul Hijjah. Number 7, fasting the 3 white days, which are the 13th, 14th and 15th of every lunar month. And number 8, fasting most of Muharram. Okay, let's go through these. First of all, it needs to be mentioned that it is recommended to fast nawafil fasts, because first and foremost, not only will you receive great reward, but more importantly than that even, they will make up for any deficiencies in your obligatory fasts. So if you had any deficiencies in your Ramadan fasts, hopefully your nawafil fasts would make up for that deficiency, in the same way that your nawafil prayers will make up for any deficiencies in your obligatory prayers, as is famously mentioned in the hadith. Point number 1 is to fast alternate days. This is the best type of fasting, and it is the fasting of the Prophet Dawud alayhi salam. This is due to the evidence in the hadith, أحب الصيام إلى الله صوم داود كان يفطر يوما ويصوم يوما. The most beloved fasting to Allah is the fasting of Dawud alayhi salam. He used to fast a day and break his fast the next day, so he used to fast alternate days. Point number 2 is to fast the Yawm of Arafah, the day of Arafah, which is the 9th of Dhul Hijjah. This is because fasting that day, if it is accepted from you, will expiate your sins for that year and the coming year, as has been reported in the hadith. If you are a pilgrim, then fasting that day is makruh. It is hated, because the pilgrim on that day is striving in making dua all day long, so he does need some energy, so fasting will discourage him from making dua and striving in worship. Point number 3 is to fast the day of Ashura, which is the 10th of Muharram. Why? Because this fasting expiates the sins of the past year. It is sunnah to fast the 9th and the 10th of Ashura. The reason why you also fast the 9th is to differ from the Jews who would take Ashura as a day of fasting also.
Point number 4 is to fast Mondays and Thursdays.
This is because your deeds are presented to Allah on these days. Inna a'mal al-'abd tu'radu yawm al-ithnain wal-khamis. Therefore it is recommended to be in a state of fasting, which is the best of states to be in when your deeds are presented. This was also from the sunnah of the Prophet. Point number 5 is to fast the 6 days of Shawwal after Ramadan. This is due to the hadith Man sama Ramadana thumma atba'ahu sittan min Shawwal kana ka Siyam al-dahr. Whoever fasts Ramadan and then he follows it up with 6 days of Shawwal, it would be as if he is fasting forever and ever. It needs to be noted here that the 6 days of Shawwal need to be done after you've completed Ramadan. So if you had any outstanding fasts from Ramadan, they must be completed first and then the 6 of Shawwal. Point number 6 is to fast the first 9 days of Dhul Hijjah. This is because the deeds done in the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah are most beloved to Allah Azza wa Jal. And seeing as though you can't fast on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah because that is Eid, you would have to do the first 9. Rasulullah ﷺ said, مَا مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أَحَبُّ إِلَى اللَّهِ الْعَمَلُ فِيهِنَّ إِلَّا هَذِهِ الْأَيَّامِ, that there is no set of days in which deeds are more beloved to Allah than these days. And he was referring to the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. Point number 7 is to fast the 13th, 14th and 15th of every lunar month. That's lunar month and not the solar month. This is because the sunnah is to fast 3 days of every month, and the best 3 days are the 13th, 14th and 15th. They're called the 3 white days because these are the days where the moon is full, and so it lightens up or whitens the night. This is due to the hadith, Ya Aba Dharr, إذا صمت من الشهر 3 أيام فصم 13 والرابع وخامس عشر. O Abu Dharr, if you fast 3 days in the month, then let those 3 days be the 13th, 14th and 15th. The wisdom behind fasting 3 days in the month is that if every good deed is worth a minimum of 10 good deeds, then fasting 3 days would mean 3 times 10, 30 fasts. That would be fasting a whole month. So if you did that every month, it would be like fasting every single month. So that would be like fasting all the time continuously in terms of the reward. And point number 8 is to fast most of Muharram. This is due to the hadith, أفضل الصيام إلى الله بعد رمضان شهر الله المحرم. The best or most virtuous fasting to Allah after Ramadan is the month of Allah, which is Al-Muharram. It is also been narrated that Rasulullah ﷺ would fast most of Sha'ban. But here it should be noted that if you did not start off Sha'ban fasting and it came to halfway through Sha'ban, then you should not start your fasting halfway through Sha'ban, as the Prophet forbade this. Fundamental rule number 7, these are the days on which it is prohibited to fast, and there are 7 of these, so noting down and memorizing. Number 1, the 2 Eids. Number 2, the Ayyam al-Tashriq, the days of Tashriq, which are the 11th, 12th and 13th of Dhul Hijjah. Number 3, the Yawm al-Shak, which is the day of doubt. This is the day where you're not sure has Ramadan begun or not. Number 4, to fast Yawm al-Jum'ah on its own. Number 5, to fast Yawm al-Sabt, which is Saturday, on its own. Number 6, to fast every single day. Number 7, for a woman to fast whilst her husband is present without his permission. Let us go through these. Number 1, this is due to the evidence where Prophet ﷺ forbade fasting Yawm al-Fitr and Yawm al-Nahr. Yawm al-Fitr is the 1st of Shawwal, and Yawm al-Nahr, which is the day of sacrifice, is the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. These are the days of eating and drinking. Number 2, Ayyam al-Tashriq. These are the 11th, 12th and 13th. of Dhul Hijjah. It's called Tashriq, which comes from Sharraqa, which means to hang the meat up in the sunshine. So what they would do in these days, which are the days of Eid, they would put salt on the meat and hang it up in the sun to preserve it, because they didn't used to have freezers and fridges in those days. Point number 3 is to fast the Yawm al-Shak, the day of doubt. You are not sure, has Ramadan begun or not? So what you would do, you would fast just in case Ramadan has begun. So this is not allowed. The Prophet said, Man sama Yawm al-Shak faqad asa Abul Qasim. Whoever fasted the day of doubt, then he had disobeyed Abul Qasim, which is the kunya of the Prophet ﷺ. So the correct procedure here is that you need to be sure that Ramadan has set in, and then you make your intention and fast. Point number 4, you are not allowed to fast Yawm al-Jum'ah on its own, meaning you're not allowed to single out Yawm al-Jum'ah for fasting. There are many ahadith for this. One of them is the story of Juwayriyah alayha salam, one of the wives of the Prophet, when she was fasting Yawm al-Jum'ah, and he asked her, Hal sumti amsi, did you fast yesterday? She said no. Then he said, Hal tasumina ghadan, are you going to fast tomorrow? And she said no. Then he told her, فَأَفْطِرِي إِذًا, then break your fast. So what is understood here is that if you couple the fasting of Yawm al-Jum'ah with the fasting of Thursday or the fasting of Saturday, one day before or one day afterwards, then there is no harm in that. Point number 5, you should not single out Saturday for fasting either. This is due to the hadith, لا تصوموا يوم السبت إلا فيما افترض عليكم وإن لم يجد أحدكم إلا عود الشجرة فليمضغه. Do not fast Saturday except for the obligatory fasts upon you, and if one of you does not find except the branch of a tree, then let him bite onto it, meaning let him bite onto it, but don't fast Saturday on its own. There is no problem in you coupling the Saturday fast with Friday fast or the Sunday fast. Point number 6 is fasting every single day without a break in between. The hadith says, La sama man sama al-abad. The one who fasts every time without a break has not actually fasted. The reason for this is that if you were to fast absolutely every single day, it would weaken you and would discourage you from pursuing acts of worship that would benefit you. Point number 7, the hadith says, لا تصوم المرأة وبعلها شاهد إلا بإذنه, that a woman should not fast whilst her husband is present except with his permission, because her husband may need her for intercourse, and that would obviously break her fast. If her husband is away on a travel, then there is no problem in her fasting. We'll finish off the book of fasting with some questions, so here they are. Number 1, why is it recommended to fast Tuesdays and Thursdays? Question number 2, what are the 3 white days? Question number 3, what is the Yawm al-Shak, the day of doubt, and what's the ruling on fasting that day? Question number 4, what is the reasoning for fasting the 9th of Muharram as well as the Yawm Ashura, which is the 10th of Muharram? Question number 5, what is the reasoning for the woman not being allowed to fast whilst her husband is present except with his permission?